Welcome in, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. It is 7 a.m. Wednesday, April 29th, live from the Regions Tradition at Greystone Country Club. We're going to kick it off with Stephen Pearl, Auburn head basketball coach. How much golf have you been playing?
Played one round the other day at Wicker, and just to get that first tee box jitter out of the way, so I don't take anyone out today. And luckily, they put the least famous celebrity at 7:30, and hopefully there'll be not that many people out there.
You're talking Greg's language with Wicker Point. Y'all can just go ahead and talk about that.
We've had some
Greg's
fun down there.
now.
We've been down there a little bit together, playing some tournaments together. And I haven't played with you, though. Haven't played against you, but we've seen you in between rounds, and we're usually pretty bummed because it hasn't gone our way.
Yeah, that's the story of golf for you, though. You know.
I'm anxious to talk about your roster. You and I were talking before we went on there. It's going to be a little different every year. It feels like it's going to be very different for you this year, specifically with the size and maybe – with what your size may be capable of behind the three-point line.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the two biggest things that we had to address this offseason were, one, rim protection, because we didn't have any of that this past season. And, we were able to go out into the portal and into the international market and get 14 feet of rim protection with, Narcisse Ngoy from France and Buki Aboye from Santa Clara. So, feel really good about, that area of what we did this offseason. And, we're going to surround them with some really good shooting, with Adam Olson and Thomas Dowd and Kevin Overton, Tahad Pettiford. And, I think we have a lot of really good options as far as guys that can really spread it and shoot it, put the ball on the floor. But, the biggest thing this year is we had a top 10 offense. We just didn't have any rim protection on the defensive end to be able to be aggressive on the perimeter and, funnel guys to the paint. And that's been like our biggest, calling card over the last 5 years. 3 of the top 10 defenses in the country have been Auburn defenses. Yeah. But when you have guys like Walker Kessler and Janai Broom and Dylan Cardwell and Chaney Johnson and Jabari Smith back there to kind of clean up your mistakes, it makes everything a lot easier, and we just didn't have that this past season.
It seemed like that was kind of a universal trend all over the place. Outside of Michigan and a few others, it felt like rim protection was kind of maybe at an all-time low. Is that something that you've seen change kind of across the country over the last few years?
No, but, I mean, if you look at the best defenses, that's pretty paramount in all their rosters is guys that can really just get vertical and wall up around the rim and alter shots. And, you look at the teams in the Final Four, those were 4 of the biggest teams in the country as far as rim protectors around the rim. And, the traditional big is kind of back in the college game, which is kind of interesting. And I think Janai really had a lot to do with that, which was pretty cool. And then on top of that, Owen Freeman, is a 6'10", center / power forward from Iowa that, was a really good shot blocker that's going to play the 4 for us. So we're going to have a different, level, different type of size this year with this group, and, something that we're excited about.
I'm pumped about Thomas Dowd and Stephen Pearl, Auburn head basketball coach, joining us out at the Regions Tradition. We actually had his brother on the show. He played college football with Damien, who's back in studio producing right now. And hearing some of the family stories, first off, is awesome. I mean, just the athletes in this family. But his style of basketball is just it's energetic, it's fun. He feels like he can do everything on the court. I know you're excited to get this kid in an Auburn uniform.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas just impacts winning at such a high level on both ends of the floor. And, the second he gets in the game, you just notice him because he's doing something that doesn't show up on the, on the stat sheet while all averaging a double-double. And, one of the biggest things that he said to me on his visit was like, I'm coming in here to compete for a starting spot. Like, I've been promised things by other schools. I don't want you to do that. Like, I want to come in here and earn it, which, just spoke volumes to me. And that's the type of kids that we've always had in this program that have had a lot of success. So, Thomas is going to be a great piece for us. And, he's an older piece, that's made back-to-back NCAA tournaments and has been such a big part of those Troy teams, having the success that they've had. So really excited about Thomas and his family, being part of ours.
Obviously, a hot topic of debate last year was the European player and pros in Europe coming over here and whether or not they should, whether or not they shouldn't. If that's the rule, you might as well embrace it. So what is different about a European player that comes over here when compared to a high school senior or even a transfer portal player that you get? What kind of advantages are in a European player?
I mean, it is hit or miss. You've seen a fair share of international guys that have come over here and it hasn't translated. But you've looked at teams like Illinois and you look at teams like, Florida, and you look at teams like Gonzaga and Arizona. All have had great success with international players. I think when you get them at a high level that come in, that's all they really do. While they go to school, like they go to academies and they're playing professionally at the age of 16. So they're playing amongst, older grown men, and they're playing, in a very physical system, and they just understand the game a little bit better than I think players in America do playing through the AAU and the high school systems. They just have better coaching, I think, coming up. So when you get them over here, as long as there's not a language barrier, it's a pretty seamless transition because they understand all the terminologies, they understand everything that you're trying to do, and they pick up on things very quickly. So there's an advantage there, but obviously, if you're bringing them into the SEC, there's a bit of a learning curve there and an adjustment with the speed and the athleticism and the size of the players that we have in our league, and that's something that you got to factor into it when you're looking at these kids.
Can you lay out for us exactly what the system is like there? Is it how different is it from middle school ball, high school ball, and then maybe AAU travel ball, which we have here? Are they just basically being shot up to playing professional ball as middle schoolers? Is it all just club team and there's no school ball? Like from how they come up and how they're raised, the levels of basketball, how is that different than what we're used to?
Yeah, I mean, it's academies and like club teams all the way up, and they're playing against high level, older competition. As they continue to progress through the different stages, and they're thrown in. Playing at 16, they're playing against 20, 22-year-old professionals. At such a young age, so it's just the structure is way different. They're doing like advanced drill work way earlier in their career. Their fundamentals are just way more sound than guys that we're getting out of high school. And they just understand how to play team basketball, which I think there's a lot of benefits to that. You're not having to teach them a lot of things when they first get onto campus.
How do you get that skill work for younger kids here? Where do you go to get that?
I mean, you got to do a good job as a parent of finding the right trainers that are working on the right things. So I think finding.
So it's my fault that my kids don't have
100%. Yeah, no, there's no doubt. I saw them at Father-Son camp. You got work to do this summer. No, I mean I think getting them in with former coaches, I think, is always a really positive thing. You see all these different workout gurus and stuff, and it's great, but are they actually working on the right things that impact winning? And I think that's one of the things that they really concentrate on over there is they put work on the fundamentals, and people want to get bored with the simple stuff. And that's what wins you basketball games. So I think just really harping on the small details of what helps impact winning and what helps make your team better are all things that I think younger people, especially over here, have got to do a better job of.
Well, if you're looking for rim protection, Cole's family can provide it. I don't know if they'll have the length that you're looking for.
Well, look at some fouls though. They're going to use all 5 fouls.
You're going to earn that layup. I can promise you.
One.
Your little rib check from the Cubelic family.
It's the Stephen Pearl Tennessee model, so I love it.
Look, after last year, year one in the books, I'm sure it was a tremendous learning experience. What would you say is the thing that maybe you didn't realize how difficult it was going to be? Something that you're more prepared for this year, knowing that, all right, I didn't anticipate it being as difficult in this specific area. Now I got to better accommodate myself to get things and kind of maybe get out in front of it next year instead.
Yeah, I've been asked that question a lot, and it's really hard to just try and really narrow it down to one thing.
Sure.
There's so many things you're going through it that you're learning as you're, about yourself as a coach and, as just, a leader. And, all things I think I, tried to improve on throughout the year. One of the things that is really the most challenging is just trying to stay present with where you are and not get too caught up in the wins and the losses. And I talked about it all year, trying to not get too high and trying to not get too low. But it's really difficult to do when you're obviously trying to accomplish something and finish in the upper half of the SEC and compete for a championship and improve your seeding in the tournament and not get too far ahead of yourself and staying true to your process. And I thought we did a good job of that, but I think next year I'll look back on some of the experiences that I had this year, and I think I'll be better for it because of it. We obviously went through some tremendous highs and some difficult lows, but I think, overall for our guys to be able to win 22 games for the 5th time in a row, the 10th most wins in school history for a season. And, it wasn't the tournament that we wanted to play in, but it was the tournament that we deserved to play in, just based on the amount of losses that we had. I thought our guys did a good job of ending the season on a strong note and giving us the momentum that we needed going into this portal season.
Can it be carried over one year to the next? I saw Wichita State do it, first and foremost, winning it probably 10, 12, 15 years ago, won the NIT, carried over to a Final Four berth the following year, or a number 1 overall seed. I don't remember which year was first. But either way, I feel like there's something that can be learned from that process, and it can be carried over to an extent.
You look at Nebraska 2 years ago. They went to the Crown, and no one probably even thinks about this, but Nebraska won the Crown, which was the tournament out in Vegas.
Yeah.
Retained a couple of their key pieces, and then they had a great year this past year. That's kind of that's part of the reason why I decided to play in the NIT was if we hadn't, Tahad and KO don't come back, I got to find this is the only opportunity I have to be able to build some positive momentum, to be able to keep some of the key pieces that I want to, where they can feel good about what we did this year, but then also, show the country that, what we do still works. And I think we were able to do that. And, it gave the kids that we were recruiting in the portal the confidence to be able to come in here and commit to playing here. And I think it's something that we can really use as a springboard moving forward and use as momentum, while the guys that come back are obviously disappointed this year, they're still hungry and they understand like some of the things that we went through and they don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to be able to, tell that to our incoming guys. Like, listen, these are the problems that we had last year. This is what we got to do to fix it. So we're not having to deal with these things, come March.
We're talking with Stephen Pearl at the Regions Tradition, Auburn head basketball coach. What would you like to see Tahad's role be that was a little bit different from last year this year?
Yeah, I want Tahad to play off the ball a little bit more this year, and that was something that I wasn't able to do for him this year, and we did it a little bit late when I thought it was really good, because when you're the point guard, kind of similar to being the quarterback, like it can be exhausting if you're just getting, nonstop pressure. Greg
Right.
didn't have to worry about that because he had a great offensive line in Alabama. He just sat in the pocket all day.
All day.
But, like Tahad being the number one player on the scouting report and the point guard, they are, throwing extra bodies at him, and they're putting the best defender on him. So, over a 40-minute game where he's playing 35, that's a lot on somebody like him. So I'm going to be able to play him off the ball a little bit more with KO playing some one towards the end of the year, and then George Kimball from Vanderbilt coming in to give us some minutes. And then you have Blake Michalek as well that played minutes for us this year. So him being in more of a scoring guard position where I can run him off of screens and get him into the stacks and run him off of big screens, I think will be really good for him and allowing him to not have to work as hard to get cleaner shots up.
I got to ask you before we let you go. Pete Thamel reports yesterday, NCAA final steps towards expanding the tournament to 76. Is this good? Is this bad? Do we like this? Do we hate this?
Yeah, I think you can find a negative and a positive in everything. I think it kind of dilutes it a little bit, honestly. But it also allows teams like Tulsa and New Mexico and some of those teams that we saw in the NIT who I thought were really good, the opportunity to go into the tournament and be a Cinderella story. But I think it also makes the bubble a little bit weaker, when teams like us who had 16 losses are able to get into the tournament. I'm not sure if that really rewards the best 68, well now 76 teams. So it obviously allows more opportunities for bigger conference teams to get in. But I think the one positive is you're going to be able to get some high 20, low 30 win teams that missed the tournament that I think deserve to be in the tournament. Miami of Ohio deserved to be in the tournament.
Yeah.
We played Tulsa. That was an NC. I thought they were a tournament type team. They were really good. So those are the types of teams that I think are going to benefit from this, which I think could be a positive.
As long as they're the ones that get in, I'm all for it.
As long as it's not 8 high majors.
That's what I feel like it's going to be, though. I don't know. That's my fear, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know. I think if you look at the metrics, those teams would still have had a better argument than a lot of the teams that would have been at the high major level that would have gotten in.
Sure.
So I hope that it's four, like half and half. Four high majors and then 4 mid majors are able to get in and get an opportunity.
I feel like your tone on last year's team at the end of the year is very different now than it was when the year was concluding. How much of that was forced, and how frustrating was that for you to kind of go politic for your team? Because it doesn't sound the same now. You sound very more realistic now. You sound a little more kind of like, yeah, we had some struggles that probably didn't deserve some of those things. But you also have to go to bat for your team.
Yeah, my tone with you guys was my tone in the locker room. I was like, guys, we played ourselves out of this tournament, but I'm going to go fight like hell to try and get us in. And I understand that I caught a lot of, shit for that. But it is what it is. That's my job as a coach. I got to go fight for my guys. And if I just laid down and said, yeah, we have 16 losses, we don't deserve to be in, what message am I sending my team?
I feel like you'd have caught a lot more.
Yeah, no doubt. So, you're in a lose-lose situation right there. I had to go fight for my team, and I thought, the arguments that we had were compelling arguments. We had great metrics. We literally had the best metrics of any team that's ever missed the tournament. So, but we had too many losses.
Yep.
And I totally understand why they left us out. Because if you do that, you then set a precedent to allow other teams that have close to, 16, 15 losses of getting in. And I think that's a tough standard that you want to set. So, I don't fault them for their decision. They had a really difficult choice. Do I think we were better than a lot of the teams that got in at the very end? Yeah, of course. But we got to do a better job of handling our business, in the SEC play, and we didn't do that, and we ultimately didn't get in, and we didn't deserve to be in. But I thought we did a really good job of handling the adversity and going out and winning 5 games in the NIT. And, I think we showed a lot of people what we were made of.
It's refreshing to hear that tone, though. So it really is. I appreciate you taking some time with us. Be careful with the fans today, the patrons.
I'll try my best.
Try to hit them
Yeah,
straight.
be careful the water. That's what I'm worried about. It's the standing water in the fairway. We could turn an ankle quickly, and the last thing we want is to turn an ankle.
I don't have to worry about being in the fairway very often. It's not as good as you. So.
Thanks for hopping on with us, Coach.
Good to see you.
Stephen
guys.
Pearl, Auburn head basketball coach, joining us here live from the Regions Tradition out of Greystone. Full day for you today as we will be live till 10 a.m. We've got Kalen DeBoer, we've got Nick Saban, we've got Dale Murphy, we've got Charles Barkley, we've got Kirby Smart, we've got Pete Golding. It's going to be a fun day. Keep it locked right here on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 7:18 Wednesday, April 29th, right here on Jocks. We're live from the Regions Tradition. If you're looking for an activity this weekend, no better, especially today with Kalen DeBoer on the course. Alex Goler's going to be walking around. Stephen Pearl on the course. Nate Oates on the course. Dale Murphy on the course. Charles Barkley. Saw Peter Burns and Chris Doring earlier. Who will shoot a lower score today, you or Peter Burns?
Probably Burns, but I don't know. It's really wet, so that favors length, and I'm pretty good bit longer than him, so I'm hopeful that'll give me a shot. But, yeah, I still think Burns is the smart money there. Smart money play.
He just plays so much more than you.
A lot more than me. A lot more than me. But that's all right. Also a college golfer.
Also, we mentioned it with Coach Pearl. Pete Thamel reporting yesterday, NCAA final steps towards expanding the tournament from 68 to 76. And I think what you asked Coach Pearl about, Greg, probably is, hopefully is the fear for the majority of folks that are observing this, and that is that you're a game or two above 500 Big Ten, SEC, ACC teams are most likely going to fill up a lot of those spots. And as Coach Pearl pointed out, I watched a couple of those Auburn games in the NIT, and those are some good basketball teams that they played. And you just wonder, those 26, 28, 30-win teams that are, I guess, on the bubble are just not going to get in. Is this truly going to give them a better opportunity to make the NCAA tournament?
Well, I think that's been everybody's fear about an expansion, is not that there aren't more worthy teams to get in. There are plenty of teams that get left out that could make a run every year. And there's plenty of teams that get in that should never be anywhere near the field. But the biggest concern, I think, amongst many is an expansion favors the rich, which, by the way, is totally okay. I understand that to an extent. But if we're now letting teams in that are at or near 500 in their season, then the regular season has completely gone by the wayside in the Power Four. I mean, it really has. It's like, all right, get to 500, you'll make the tournament. You'll make the field. I mean, the expanded conversations of 96 teams in some cases, some of the models is like, you got to be kidding me. What are we doing? So you look at it, I'm okay if a great mid-major doesn't win their conference. If this 8 extra spots allows them maybe a chance to get in when they didn't win their league, I can get on board with that. What I don't want are these teams that are well below the norm in their own league, and all of a sudden, you have 12 Big Ten teams and 12 SEC teams, when in reality there's a team that went 33 and 6, or 27 and 6, and losing the conference championship game from the Colonial Athletic. I feel like the team that had a great run in the Colonial Athletic should potentially get in over a mediocre Syracuse. But I have no idea how it's all going to work out, to be honest with you.
No, and it's one of the things, too. I think it's going to depend on the year, the teams, those schedules. It's like that Miami, Ohio we discussed in that we were
100%.
having. There were people that legitimately said they should not be one of 68 teams in the tournament, which just felt egregious to me. But there were other people that would say, no, they don't deserve to even be in the tournament. You didn't hear the debate of should they be a single-digit seed or should they be a 13, 14 seed. It was they shouldn't even be in the tournament for some folks, which I think that's what we're a little bit nervous that we're going to kind of run into down the road. Can I give you an update on something we discussed on the show yesterday?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Took the kids to DQ after school yesterday.
Oh, how was it?
We went with all 3. I had each order a different one.
Which one did you order?
I ordered the Cinnamon Toast Crunch dipped cone.
Okay, so you had 2 Cinnamon Toast dip cones. Anybody have the Fruity Pebbles milkshake?
We just got one of those. One of the kids had to stay after school and have a dodgeball game against the teachers, which he claims he won, which I doubt. But
if you believe you won, can you ever lose?
Fair enough, I guess. If he
winning and losing is a frame of mind.
In his mind, he often wins. I'll tell you that. So that's probably a great analogy for him. So I had the Cinnamon Toast Crunch dip cone. It was about an 8.5 out of 10, maybe a 9 out of 10. It was fantastic because I also went with the cheat code of the extra dipping sauce that, once you got the melted Cinnamon Toast Crunch off. Didn't eat the whole thing, though, but did at least get an extra dip in there.
That's so aggressive.
It's so good, though, too.
But why would you do both? Why would you feel the need to do the extra dip in addition to the already dipped cone?
Yeah,
because he's American,
because
Greg.
that's the best part. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, America is a country of gluttony, and I support it greatly.
So
all about it.
Youngest son went with the Fruity Pebbles milkshake. I asked him out of 10 what it was. He said 6 out of 10. I said, so not great? He said not great. And I'll say I tried it. It was way too sweet.
Yeah.
Way too sweet.
Shocker. It's Fruity Pebbles.
Stay away from that.
Tried to tell you.
You're not going to want that.
Did I call that?
You did.
Okay,
You
just
did.
making sure.
It doesn't mean you're right, but you called it.
I'm not saying that Fruity Pebbles are terrible. I'm just saying that at this stage of my life, it's a little too sweet. I need a little bit more. And you said, "Oh, well, have the old man flakes or whatever they're called. What is it?
Grape nuts.
Grape nuts. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
we
was
need
like,
a
no,
grape nut shake
there's
for you.
I just don't like putting 8 packets of Sweet and Low in my milkshake that's already sweet.
Fair.
That's all I'm saying.
I will say this, though. I was a little concerned about my daughter who told me when we were ordering, she said, I don't like Fruity Pebbles, Dad. And I said, what is wrong with you? We got problems in the house.
Kit knows.
Hang around her mom too much.
She knows.
So then,
now, if she would have said, it's just the artificial flavoring, that would have concerned me.
Red 5.
There's 2. Yeah, this is yellow 10. I can't eat this.
So she actually went with the chocolate donut blizzard, which I would have said, I'm just no. And actually, when she got it, there was didn't look like there was any chocolate in it, but there were giant chunks of donut in this thing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, I would still go Cinnamon Toast Crunch dip cone.
Yes.
But that blizzard was legit.
Okay.
It was good. She ended up giving half of it to her brother. They split it because he didn't like his milkshake. But yeah, that's those two are the way to go. Skip the Fruity Pebbles milkshake. You don't need that.
I did get the sense, and blizzards are a bit heavy to begin
It's a
with.
lot.
I mean, it's a bit heavy. You put cake and or donut pieces, donut chunks in the blizzard, that's a lot.
Yep.
And it's not even a caloric thing. It's really just more of the way it sits.
Yeah, it's just heavy.
It's just heavy. So
she didn't get through a ton of it, but she did enjoy it, and she said she liked it. So when after baseball you do decide to go, you now know just skip that Fruity Pebbles.
Well, baseball got rained out yesterday, so I think there's always tomorrow.
Always.
We have with baseball schedule being what it is, we'll have plenty of opportunities to get by DQ.
Plenty.
First one is going to be Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and I have a feeling based on your rating of it already and my propensity and appreciation for Cinnamon Toast Crunch, I think Cinnamon Toast Crunch dipped cone is probably going to be the only thing I order from this point forward.
And then re-dipped cone.
No, you can't do that.
If you want, you can do it.
Can't
you
do
can
that.
have that.
No,
Yes,
that's too much.
Impossible. So, and I will say, the gentleman who tumped it over for us, it was super humid after school yesterday. He's like, I'm gonna turn this over for y'all, but I don't feel good about it. And he did it real quick.
Yeah,
I'm
telling you,
it was thick out there yesterday.
That's in the company bylaws. Is the higher the temperature outside, the faster. They don't put the guys with slow twitch muscles in the drive-through lane when it's hot outside. You need a quick wrist to be able to get it over and back.
He did also say when he handed us the milkshake, he said, I'm not going to turn that one over. And I said, I wasn't expecting you to. But I'm also glad you didn't, because that would have been everywhere. But thanks for the heads up on that. So, all right, so that's an update on DQ. We talked about that yesterday on the show.
Good update.
Get to a quick break. I believe Dale Murphy should be coming up here next soon, hopefully. We'll talk to one of Major League Baseball's all-time greats. Before we do that, tell our listeners about Polar Bear Services.
Well, I've been using Wes and the guys for a long time. They've been great to me. They've been great to our family. They've been great for my home. It's nice to know that when something goes wrong, I just have one phone call to make. I just call Polar Bear Services. I say, all right, hey, I got this going on. Can you fix it? 90% of the time it feels like the answer has been yes, whether it's plumbing, electrical, or the HVAC system. They have really helped me out. And with the storms that rolled through yesterday, I would imagine there was probably some people that lost some power. If you're thinking about installing a whole home generator, Polar Bear Services can do that for you. So remember, if you have a problem with your electrical, plumbing, heater, air, just pick up the phone and call the Bear. It's 205-497-BEAR. That's 497-BEAR.
We're just going to roll. We'll go right through our first break because Dale Murphy, the legend, sitting down with us now and getting ready to take the course. Murph, how's the golf game right now?
I just played. I'm trying to figure what is today. I played Monday with Bruce Benedict and Glenn Hubbard.
Wow, that's throwback right there. No Ozzie Virgil to throw in there?
No, Ozzie wasn't there. Hub beat us all. I had a few blow-ups on a few holes. Other than that, I had a blast. I'm making contact.
That's a win. That's a win.
Speaking of blow-ups, who had the worst temper on those old Braves teams? Bob Horner?
Oh, it's too early to figure that one out. I think we all had our moments.
I don't think anybody views you as that guy.
Well, you know what you do is in the dugout on the way up to the clubhouse, you just go up there and kind of let it go sometimes. But No, it's good memories, man. It was great to see Bruce Benedict and Glenn Hubbard again, and we had a blast.
How would you have fared as a prospect in today's baseball with the analytics and the exit velo and the measuring your miles per hour on every throw, and it's just taking a little bit away from the feel of the game and actually just being a ball player as opposed to everything has to have a statistic next to it?
Yeah, it's a real challenge. I think everybody kind of played in the era they were meant to play in. I always looked at numbers, but there's just so much now. I think in any profession, you got to be careful because now you can measure so many things, but I don't think everything you can measure is valuable. You got to be careful because you just see so much of it, and like your launch angle, for instance, as a hitter. There's just so many things you got to do by feel as opposed to breaking it down so analytically and mechanically. It's a feel game. A lot like golf. I mean, guys know the spin rate of, how they hit them and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you got to have touch around the green. You got to have feel. You got to have, instinct. I think there's so much that if I played now, I'd have to be careful because so much gets into your head. But these athletes are great. But, a lot of people ask me, like, how many home runs would you hit right now? And it's like, man, I don't know. It's tough to hit now. I'd hit maybe 10 or 11 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have better training. You'd have better nutrition.
Yeah. Torpedo bats.
Plus,
torpedo bats. Yeah.
Plus, I'm 70 years old, so
that probably wouldn't go.
Yeah, I mean that's true. Short porch stuff.
I just turned 70. Can you believe that? That's crazy.
No, I can't. That's scary.
But these guys are great athletes. I think the analytics has, for instance, I don't know how much time we have, so I won't get into the whole thing.
We're not in a hurry.
But I think, that's true. My tee time got pushed back, so I'm good. For instance, the bunt. Statistically and analytically, and the metrics say that the bunt isn't as valuable as we used to think it was,
right?
Which is probably true, except that two things: when they get into the playoffs, all of a sudden one run is so critical they start bunting.
Yeah.
But they haven't bunted during the season because the analytics say. But when they get into, so it's like small ball. Small ball is really valuable, but the metrics have taken a lot of that out of the game because of, you look at the math, it doesn't work over the course of a season. Well, you can't take a statistic and look at it at one point in time over 10,000 games because right now it may be very valuable right at
Great
this
point.
moment. And that's why a manager has got to be able to balance analytics versus what's going on with his team. One last thought. Statistically, the first team that scores is the team that usually wins. It's between 60 and 70%. The first team that scores. So why wouldn't you play for one run to get that first, play
get
for
that one
across
the board
instead of trying to hit a 3-run home run? But it's going in all sports. I think NBA is going through it now with the three-point play.
For sure.
So, and I got to be careful because all of us old guys start sounding like old guys. Because these kids, it's harder to hit now.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think there's any question it's harder to hit now. Guys are throwing a lot. You don't face the starting pitcher as much. If I was facing Nolan Ryan or Oral Hershiser, I usually had 3 or 4 shots at him. Now you got 2 shots and then you go into the bullpen. You got 3 other guys. It's tough. Guys are throwing hard. A lot of things. So it's a different game, but I love it. I watch it. Braves are hot. Man, they got a great team, and they're not even at full strength yet, so I'm excited.
That's really cool. Look, we both have sons. A lot of our listeners are going through the youth sports stuff right now. I'm fascinated to get your approach because I for one, experienced burnout in high school on baseball. I still played, but I didn't love it the way I once did. I didn't play year-round. I played in the spring and then in the summer a little bit and then went to football. So I'm curious your thoughts on how we're developing young players in baseball and how a lot of guys are now playing year-round, and if that's good for them long-term, if it's detrimental long-term. What's your opinion on it?
Parents have to be really clued in and make sure you got honest conversations with your kids and seeing if they're enjoying it.
Right.
Some kids would play 24 hours a day, and some kids By the way, I got to announce I just had my 22nd
Oh my goodness.
grandbaby yesterday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And Nance and I have 8 kids, and so we had kids that loved to play, and we had kids that didn't necessarily love to play. I'm an artist. I have a lawyer. I have a professor. The point is, you got to be really clued in.
Yeah.
And if they're not I had kids that didn't enjoy sports as much. And actually, the challenge is when they're coordinated and they what am I trying to say? They're actually able to play. They have good hand-eye coordination, but they don't enjoy it. That's where, as a parent, you got to know, are they one of my kids with the best hand-eye coordination was my first one, Chad. He's a professor now. You know, he got into academics, and he's a professor at Oregon State, and sports. Just he liked it, but he didn't have that passion.
Sure.
So parents got to be clued in. The challenge with youth sports, yes, it's expensive. A lot of specialization early, so you got to just make sure you're communicating with your children. Are you enjoying this? You want to do something? You want to do dance? You want to do bowling? You want to do soccer? Whatever you want to do, find yourself. So. Yep. It's hard to navigate, though, as a parent, because there's a lot. It just used to be simple. Just go play.
Yeah, right.
Sounds like it might be harder to navigate as a grandparent. We have 22 running.
Yeah. I can do names. I can't do birthdays.
There's no way.
Except yesterday's.
There's literally no way you can remember the birthday.
No, I just asked Nancy. But it's a different world. So you got to have some really good communication with your kids.
Net positive or net negative, though? You think the year-round access? Because I really don't know.
I agree with you. I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
Because when you get down to specialization, it kind of works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Who were you talking about? My son and I were talking about. My son Jake and I were talking about. I think it might have been Messi. Soccer. I mean, a lot of people do specialize when they're 4, 5, 6 years old.
Yeah.
Does it work? Yes and no. I mean, it's you got to be careful. Burnout is like you mentioned is a reality.
No doubt.
No question about it. And you think your kid, he's loving baseball. He's not really loving it that much. He actually likes football more.
Yeah.
You just got to talk and see what they're thinking. And if they need to take a break, I mean, I think we could all agree there is a little too much going on with the pitchers. We're having a lot of pitchers throwing too young, too hard, and they're blowing out. So that's a problem.
Dale Murphy, one of the all-time greats. We're up against a break. Thank you for taking the time today.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. And that was a fun conversation. I hope we can do it again
I'm
soon.
so grateful to be here. Very thankful. Thanks for having me on, guys.
We'll get to a break, come back with Pete Golding next right here on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning, 7:40 Wednesday, April 29th, right here on Jocks. Ole Miss head football coach Pete Golding sitting down with us now at the Regions Tradition. Has that sunk in yet? That right there. Ole Miss head football coach Pete Golding.
I'm thinking it's starting to a little bit. It took a lot of time just because of the timing of everything and just going to the next step of what needed to be done. And then kind of mentioned this last week, that ice storm for us extended kind of 2 weeks. So then it kind of got real within that. So like, all right, you're definitely at the top.
It's almost like your mini COVID right there, where you could like get hunkered down and get all your stuff done and get ready to go.
It was a bad thing for a lot of people, but it was a godsend for me. I can assure you that.
Pretty bold on a wet, rainy day to rock white pullover.
Yeah, you know what?
But you're embracing Ole Miss, though, with this Fratty look, though. I'm not going to lie.
You're going to be able to see my shanks, man. I mean, mud all over this thing, ready to roll, So, no, it's all good.
Are you starting to enjoy this part of it a little bit more? Like, because the interview you did on Greg's podcast was incredible. And I've been trying to tell people, and it's like Chris Doring has told people the same thing, that you're the only meeting I've gotten lost in. That I've had to literally ask you to rewind the football part of what you're talking about. And you're just a ball guy. Greg and I have tried to tell people, like, when you got the job, we was like, listen, this is a ball guy. He's going to be great. It's going to be fine. But I never take you as somebody who loves all the exterior stuff that head coaches have to do more of than ever now. Are you enjoying that part of it? Are you still getting used to it?
Yeah, no, I think getting used to it, but, like, to your point, like, I enjoy being around really good dudes that love football like you guys, you know what I'm saying? And then, obviously, I love the competitive part of sports, so when it's involving golf and all those things. So there's so much of it that you were involved in the past, obviously, not on the front page, of the vision of it. But I always love being around good people, man, and having a good time and going and competing. So I've really, really enjoyed it. I think the timing of some of them, based on what you could be doing, has been the transition for me. Right? Like where normally I'm watching tape or studying somebody or trying to prove something like, hey, we're going to go do this. So that piece of it has been a little bit of a transition. But, no, I really enjoy being around good people and good events.
Have you found that you've actually had less time to maybe cultivate those relationships that you were able to cultivate so well as a defense coordinator, where you just knew the guys and the guys on your side of the ball played so hard for you? And now you're a head coach, you have to juggle so many other responsibilities. Do you have to be really intentional about creating that relationship, that culture that you've tried to create the last few years?
I think you definitely do. And that was one, talk that I had with Coach Saban. He's like, man, you really got to delegate your time and your windows and be really, really specific, right, to what it's for. And, that's the team meeting piece. I think you can meet too much, in a team format, right? And you can't do it enough sometimes. But really delegating, hey, this is the time for our current roster. Make sure you're in front of them. Make sure you're very specific, right? And then from the recruiting standpoint, I do enjoy that because that was just a defensive focus for the last 3 years. To where now you're getting relationships with the offensive guys too, which I think will help because, you inherited a team to where you didn't recruit a lot of the offensive players if they didn't come from your area, where it feels different now when these classes are starting to come in and there was a relationship that was already built from a recruiting standpoint. But, no, I agree with you 100%. Like, got to get really specific, but not where I need to be, but continue to work on that.
All right, so you said you like being around ball guys and guys that know ball. We want to ask you about one guy because I know Greg's not going to mind because we talk about him all the time. What's it going to take for Will Eccles to get any kind of the credit that he deserves?
I think having another really elite year, and doing it on a consistent basis. And I think he'll be a household name, by the end of this year. It's a kid that's tough, competitive. He loves football. He works his butt off. The best thing about him is, he takes these young cats, under his wing and shows them what it looks like to prepare the right way and practice the right way, on top of being a really good human being.
Yeah.
And y'all been around the ball a long time, man. That package is very unique when you start taking, the athletic ability, you got the size, the football intelligence, and a good dude on top of it. So I think he'll have a really good year. I think we've recruited some depth behind him. So we can minimize some of the snap count. I think that's something that got us, late in the year on the inside. We didn't have enough depth to rotate to keep those guys fresh and ended up hurting us in the end. But I think he'll have an elite year.
Where do you think the roster is right now? Like, we know the known commodities. We know Kewan, we know Trinidad, we know Will Eccles, we know a handful of guys. But where would you say the roster is this year compared to last year?
Yeah, I think it's probably more talented collectively across the board. I think we've created a little more depth than we've had since I'd been there. There's not this huge drop-off potentially of who goes out there first and second. But, as y'all know, when you have 50 new guys between portal and high school, it's just the unknown of how are they going to respond.
Yeah.
So talent's one thing, and having an understanding of what you're asking them to do is one thing, and then getting in the game and shit's real, right? And you give up a play, how are you going to come back and respond? So, you try to create those, obviously, in spring ball, which we're doing right now, but we all know they're not the same. You can set up the situations and put them in it and try to do all that. So, I just feel like you don't know as much as you used to back in the old days of really how is he going to respond when it gets real. But I think from a talent, size, speed standpoint and experience, just not experience in these systems. So, the guys in the back end that you brought in were all stars where they're at. Same thing at receiver, but it's just a transition to, obviously, this system in this league. So, still a little bit unknown, but I definitely like, obviously, the depth of where we're at. I think we're talented, but just getting them on the right page and making sure we're not asking them to do too much, to be honest with you.
Ole Miss head coach Pete Golding with us at the Regions Tradition. You come from a defensive tree of having an answer for everything. Super sound, everything that you see, everything that moves, every formation, you have an answer for that. My observation of defense the last couple of years is it's moving a lot. I think it's kind of moving where offense has been, as in it's worth the risk, so to speak. It's become more aggressive. It's become more aggressive situationally in times that would have never been aggressive before. Where are you mentally with how you want to approach defense today versus, let's say, 5 years ago as to we got to go get ours. We got to go make the things happen as opposed to just have answers for everything, every picture that's shown. It's going to be worth giving up maybe a 20, 40-yard play because we got to get a TFL. We got to create negatives and do things of that nature as opposed to maybe when you started out of we're going to cover this look every single time. We're going to make this adjustment to every movement every time because I just feel like in an almost egregious way sometimes defense has become much more aggressive. Outside of the Jolie Dunns and guys like that we always saw. But now it feels like everybody has a little bit of that, no, we're just going after people. It doesn't matter what down distance, where we are on the field, like we are just going to attack.
Right. I think a lot of people have gone to complementary football. I think over the years the offenses have changed, right, and they're much more aggressive. So I think you got to play complementary football. The old bend but don't break was, hey, we're going to ground and pound this thing. We're going to take care of the football. All right, not let them throw it over the top. And I think that philosophy changes a little bit when you start taking tempo and basing everything on explosives. It's the mentality kind of comes. Somebody's band's going to be playing. It's either going to be ours or theirs. Right? Does it make sense? Like, we're going to create a negative yardage play. We're going to create a sack, right? Straight fumble, whatever it is, a pick. Or by doing that, you are putting certain guys in certain situations sometimes, right, that can give up an explosive. But at the end of the day, 40 yards is 40 yards, right? Whether that's one play, right, or that's 4 plays, right? It's still the same thing. So we've always been kind of pick and choose where we do that at. I think, we live much more on the dictate philosophy instead of the react. And I think that is more of an offensive mindset of the shift and the motion and the bump and doing the same thing but creating it with a different pitcher with stems and disguises and all those type of things. So I think everybody's gotten more aggressive mentality, especially in early downs, right, to try to get guys behind the chains and create obvious passing downs. And a lot of that has become, in my opinion, because of this 4-down mindset that has really changed the game, in my opinion. Yeah. Where you used to get them to, 4th and 3, 4th and 4, there was never a concern that they were going to go for it, even if the ball was on the 50. Yeah. All right, to where now, you're getting that and it's minus 38 and you're still worried about 4 downs, which has completely changed third down calls. Mm-hmm. And so I think from the defensive standpoint, right, you've gotten much more aggressive on 1st and 2nd down to really dictate the third down. Because once you get in that 3rd and 5, man, now, like, the whole playbook's open because you don't know if there's going to be 4 down or not.
So we always hear, like, when it's a potential of going for it on 4th down, okay, 3rd down, like, watch outside zone here because they don't have to get all 8 yards, whatever that is. Flip that around. What's the defensive mentality in that situation? So let's say 3rd and 7. Yep. You're concerned that there's going to potentially be a 4th down that they're going to go for it if they pick up 2-3 yards. What would your call have been? How is your call different now?
Yeah, so, now you're creating those as 50-50 downs, right? So now they become base downs to where they're very sound call from a front standpoint, right, from gap integrity and all those type of things. And then now they're issue-driven, right, like guy-based. Okay, so it's 3rd and 6. Who's their dude? Let's make sure the dude doesn't beat us, but then we're still sound to be able to fit the run with the other calls. So you have those much more to where they really become based down 50-50s. Here's the run or play action or priority pass to a guy, and that kind of complements that 3rd and medium. And then there's the decisions that you got to make. Like, you don't have to stop them every 3rd down. All right, so based on what's the game like, where you at in the field position and all those, you might give it to them, right, as far as by design of the call in order to not give up an explosive and make them spot the ball again based on how you're playing. And so I think that mentality changes based on who you're playing, right, how you're playing on offense, right, and kind of how you match up, versus the scheme that week, to be honest with you.
One thing that talked to Mike Elko about this, who I think does a great job defensively, especially on third down. He's off the charts. He said he spends so much of his time between 3rd and 3 to 6.
Yep.
Like that, most of his week, that's like where he lives. And he's like, if you look statistically over the course of time, that's when games are won and lost. So makes sense to me. How much time do you spend on individual situations? Is there one that you weigh heavier than the rest?
No, obviously, the third down component being the critical down, thinking there's going to be a kick the next play has always been that. But ours have been like the situational, all right, it's third down, play fourth down.
Yeah.
Like for our guys, right? So now here's 3rd and 6, and now, all right, they get 4, now it's 4th and 2 and play it. And so putting the kids in the situations, right, number one, so they understand, hey, what to expect, right? But then from the coach standpoint, what's the plan, right? And I think a lot of those situations come up in the game, and if you're just grab bagging as a coordinator, there's no comfort zone for the players. And they understand, hey, we're going to work this concept. We're going to work field trap. We know that. Can we do it with zone and all those type of things? Because you've gone through with the team meeting, and you coach both sides of the ball. So that's something that we've tried to do this spring and incorporate during the summer, getting really situational football.
Yeah.
But having your menu like, hey, man, this is bread and butter in this situation, right, and this is why. Here's the strength and here's the weakness, so that there's a comfort zone. Because you're going to see everything under the sun, right? It's going to be a shift. It's going to be a motion. It's going to be unbalanced. There's so many alternative formations that you want to be able to have some lock calls and like, hey, man, it don't matter what they do. We're going to be in this, right? And this is why. So I think it's made you educate the players and put them in those situations a lot more than ever before of just, hey, spot the ball and let's go move the ball. And then those situations never come up. So we start the periods always with a third down, right, or a fourth down, and try to start with the situation so we make sure we're hitting them, and then obviously script it through the move the ball scenario. But I think it's really healthy for the players and the coaches.
What's been more valuable, iPads on the sideline or headset communication in the helmet?
In my opinion, for me as a caller, headset communication. No doubt, I think as a head coach, looking at it, if you weren't calling plays, I would 100% say the iPads, because now you're not concerned of who's on the bench with them and can they actually draw it and articulate it and all those. It's taken out, where you used to have to ask a player if you didn't see it at the 3 technique.
I can't lie to you about
hey,
what
did I
he was
get
lined
the
up in
double?
anymore.
And you've adjusted a call based on what he's told you, and he lied to you, right, to see why he is on ass, and then it's like, are you kidding me? Like, so that piece of it, I think the entirety of the game, the iPads, obviously, but how our system's built, the helmet-to-helmet communication is, very, very important.
I got one more for you. I don't think you're going to like this one, but I'm going to ask anyway. We had you guys in the opener last year, and we were talking to Coach Kiffin, and he said, y'all got to understand what I have changed a lot of is how I make calls and how I do things differently in game. And he said, the reason I do that is Pete. He said, because there have been very few people in my career that could get in the headset and said, hey, man, like, you need to slow down a little bit here. Like, my guys are gassed. Or, hey, look, if the score is where we are in the game, like, do we really need to do this? Essentially, and I've said this a lot, every coach needs an FU coach, a guy that can come to them with the program's best interest in mind and say, we shouldn't do this, or stop doing that, or why don't we try this? Because, as you know, you guys have egos for a reason because you're good at what you do and you believe what you do is the right way. But essentially, he told us you had begun to act as that for him. One, where did you get that from? And two, how will you allow somebody to do that for you now as the head coach?
Yeah, I think it came from being Division II and 1AA to where all you were trying to do is win the game.
Yeah.
And so I think whether that was starting with me as a player and Rick Rhodes or me getting my coaching career with Ron Roberts, like every week it was like, all right, there was a discussion between offense and defense. How did we feel about, our scheme this week versus who we're going against? And we've been there like, look, man, we think we can get 17 on offense. I was like, well, now we got to know we hold them to 16. Well, that's going to dictate how we play and how we're going to call the game and everything that goes with it. So I think with the philosophy of like, all right, we're here to win the game. And I remember the days when you used to win 6 and get to a bowl game, right? Like it was a big deal, right? Like those were the programs that I grew up in, coming up in. And when you did that, you were trying to find every advantage to win the game, take your ego out of it, right? Because you knew you were going to get that bowl bonus if you went to the bowl and you weren't making shit. And so I think being around those guys and seeing it done that way, that no, it's about winning the game. To where I felt like when you transition up a level, all it was about was getting statistically really good and hearing my name for me to get my next job and my raise. And that's what I felt like the difference was. They'd much rather score 50 points and lose the game than score 13 and win it.
Yeah.
Right? Just because based on what the outcome and all the shit that they were going to hear by doing it. And so, like, to me, it was going D2 1AA mid-major and then being around football guys that actually understood what it goes into winning and losing a football game and the decisions. And, yeah, there's a book, but there's a blackjack book, too. That shit don't always work either, right? And so things are percentage-based and all those, but it's like, all right, it's 4th and 2. Well, do we like our 4th and 2 play? Is it a good matchup? Right? I think so much more goes into it. Where's the momentum in the game? I think there's so much more to it. So
who's injured? It doesn't tell you who's out of the game,
Yeah.
who's in the game,
and
who's tired.
So I think it was easy for Kiff to see early because when we first got there, we changed the defensive goals. It's not about 3.3 yards per attempt and all that. It's like, hey, how do you outplay the opposing defense, right? Statistically, outplay the opposing defense week in and week out, right? And so you can win the game. And so I think that started early in my career, but I think it's smaller level that all your concern is how do you win?
Yeah.
What do we need to do to win? And I think that's been lost at other places,
No doubt.
right, across the board.
Man, this is awesome. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
taking
man,
some
appreciate
time
you
with
guys.
us. We appreciate
Good
you.
to see you,
Look
bud.
forward
Y'all
to
both
seeing you.
playing today?
I'm playing. He's scared.
You're probably like, what, a 3 handicap?
No.
Less than that. He's better than that. I can't play, so that's it. We'll figure it out. My back's in bad shape, so I can't do it.
Oh, here we go.
No lineman problems.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's it.
That's
Real ball player
soft.
problems.
Ain't no doubt.
Soft.
There you go. Thank you, Coach.
All right, brother.
Appreciate
Appreciate
you
you
guys.
guys. Yep.
Pete Golding, Ole Miss head coach. He's got Kyle trained, too. Kyle doesn't even wind us up anymore. I love
No.
it. Let's go. That's a ball coach right there. All right, need to get to a break. Be back with more live from the region's tradition here at Greystone. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. It's 8 a.m. Wednesday, April 29th, right here on Jocks, live from the Regions Tradition, Greystone Country Club. What time did your tee time get bumped back to?
I'm at 9:10 now.
Ooh,
Yeah.
bad news for you, I guess.
Why?
You got to do radio.
I have to do my job. Oh, what is this?
Kirby Smart coming up here in just a moment. Nick Saban will follow Kirby Smart on the show. So if you're in your car, figure out a way to go slower as you approach work, and because you're not going to want to miss the mess too. Pete Golding was incredible. Dale Murphy was great. Stephen Pearl, top of the show. If you missed any of those, you can go to the podcast, jocksfm.com. You can also just go to YouTube, search Jocks945. And listen, if you're walking around your house right now, just tell your home smart speaker to enable the Jock skill.
Bill Smith Buick GMC is the GMC Dealer of the Year, the national champion of GMC dealers, and it's nice for us to know that they're just a short drive up to Coleman, up I-65, exit 310, Highway 31. Go see Andy Cole. He'll take great care of you. He's taking great care of me. I've bought 3 vehicles from him. I'll buy the next one as well just because the experience is better. It's just a better experience, and there's a reason why GMC's acknowledged that they're the national champion 6 years in a row, and a reason why they've won 9 times overall. They sell more vehicles than anyone else in the entire Southeast because they give you deals you can't find anywhere else, like a GMC Sierra 1500 SLT. Take $15,000 off the sticker price. Get you out the door for around $53,000. Normally you'd pay $68,000. It's deals like that keep people coming back. That's why 75% of their business is repeat customers. That's because you have a better experience when you shop with Bill Smith. So take the short drive to Coleman. You'll be glad you did. You can also shop online. Have delivered right to your driveway at Bill Smith Buick, GMC.com.
All right, so any takeaways there from Pete Golding on his football team that maybe you got that helps you formulate your opinion of what they may or may not be this fall?
Well, the one thing that, and this is a philosophy thing, right? I mean, everyone views it a little differently. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat. Pete Golding's clearly putting a little bit more of an emphasis on maybe slightly, he said across the board as a whole, the guys that will be on the field, we are more talented. The philosophy that Lane Kiffin employed was an NFL-centric philosophy where the starters get paid, the backups really don't make very much money. I think Pete probably looks at it more from the standpoint of there's going to be attrition in this league. We need to have better depth. If we're going to play the style of offense that we're going to play, we need to have more bodies that are capable on defense. So when our ones go out, we don't fall off a cliff. I mean, last year against Georgia in the first game, not in the regular season, the one they lost, their defense was on the field for 84 snaps.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter what the circumstances are. You got to be able to rotate multiple guys. You can't have your middle linebacker playing all 84. So should be good. Looking forward to seeing how they fare this year.
We got Georgia head coach Kirby Smart stopping by the show live from the Regions Tradition. Excited to have Coach Smart on. Coach, I just want to kind of give you an appreciation for how you celebrated the SEC championship in the media. And I know sometimes it's hard for people to understand when you and I played in that era and what that game meant. I know for you it's the same way. For me, like that was our ultimate goal, win the division, win the SEC championship, and then everything else was kind of we'll see what happens. I just appreciated you still having the emphasis on how important that was for your team.
Yeah, and I want to be clear, it wasn't a celebration because of the era I played in. It was a celebration because of the era I played in, I coached in, I grew up coaching in, and I've been a head coach in. So it's an appreciation for that game, the culture, the state, the fan bases. I mean, there's fan bases that are dying to go to the SEC championship game in our league and be part of a sellout, huge venue and an atmosphere like that. I mean, a lot of kids don't ever get to play in an atmosphere quite like that because it truly is a playoff atmosphere.
It's hard to beat. It's the most important game I ever participated in. I was playing against Florida in 2009, so it'll always have a special place for me. I do know that the world's changed, though. I get it. I understand that it might not be as weighed as heavily as it once did, and ultimately you're gauged by playoff success and all stuff, but I still think it matters, and I'm glad that you still consider that.
No, and I want to be clear that doesn't mean that I don't necessarily think it won't change or go away. Because
of course.
As you create more opportunities in playoffs, do you devalue the regular season? And is that part of devaluing the regular season, taking that game away? I would argue that it doesn't devalue the regular season by having that game. It's just, can we get the playoffs done in a decent amount of time while still playing that game, because that is a week that would be week 1 of the playoffs otherwise.
I'm interested in where you are in your team. I don't know how different you can feel about your teams at this point in the calendar. Are there some that you feel great about? Are there some you say, hey, we got a lot we still need to learn about our football team? Everyone has some, but if you could give us a gauge on just how you feel about this football team right now.
Yeah, the fact that I don't have to run around and sign and chase my own players more or less anybody else's players, it gives me some calm knowing that we have our players in place. Now, that also gives me some worry that I can't fix a hole or two or a depth problem or an injury problem. I mean, there's the stuff there that every coach wishes they could go out and grab somebody else and improve. But for the most part, I feel really good about it. We had a good spring, got some guys coming back, got some youthful spots that I worry about. But at the end of the day, you know, that's what they pay you to do as a coach. All summer we're going to work with these guys. We're going to find things they can do and try to find an advantage we can put them in matchups.
Well, I know you'll be able to do that. You do it every year. I feel like every year we talk to you. This year, all the coaches a little less stressed with no spring portal window here at the Regis Tradition. A little less stressed.
Lot better. I don't know when it would have been closing. I can't remember. I feel like it would have been.
It opened May 1st. That's when it used to open, I feel like.
Yeah, so yeah. Right around now.
Yeah, you're in a good spot this year for sure. Looking at the offense last year, you had made a point all throughout the offseason. Hey, I want to be more explosive. I want to do this. There are some really explosive moments. A lot of them are off kind of broken plays and Gunner just being a great football player. How do you manufacture those explosives this season in a little bit more of a traditional setting?
Well, I think our explosives in our history, the years we've been top 10 in explosive, which we have 3 or 4 times, have been off of play action and set up by the run game. And we had one of our better years running the ball. So you would beg the question, if you're able to run the ball, at least in the measure of the SEC effectively, then you should be able to play action. And we missed some of those opportunities, whether it was vision, whether it was a busted route, whether it was busted protection. And when you play action, you should have safe, good protection there. And we didn't get our bang for our buck out of those play actions, but we did we were really good in time of possession.
Yeah.
And those things help your defense. And we were able to run the ball, which we weren't able to do the year before. So they were both upgrades. But being explosive is one of the best indicators, and we got to improve on that.
I feel like with what we were able to observe, specifically, probably not Greg, but me, the way that I would watch a quarterback play, touch, controlling velocity on passes, maybe kind of leveling the football, areas Gunnar Stockton improved upon. What are some areas he improved upon last year that maybe we wouldn't notice, that we didn't get to see a lot of?
Third downs, play clock management, playing on the road. There's nothing like having to go to Knoxville and play, and play in tough environments. And those are places that he had to go into to play some tough road games into Jacksonville. And he just got better at managing things, understanding things, check system, run to run, run to pass. And I think, the best asset he has is a broken play ratio for him is more explosive. And we tried this spring to manage those better. A lot of times in practice you just kind of blow it dead. Like, we want him to go play on those plays, because if 10% of those are explosive, then we need to have more of them. And the more broken plays we have that turn into explosives, that's things you can't coach. And we had to really practice that harder. I thought he did a better job of that last year.
One thing, I've said this all throughout last year, and even throughout this spring, I thought last year might have been your best coaching job, because you went into the season anticipating getting something defensively. And then you and Glenn Schumann at the midway point or so say, no, hang on, we got to switch things up a little bit. We got to do things a little differently. Manufacture pressure. We got to manufacture havoc. And you guys did that seamlessly, and it happened overnight, it felt like. So how much more difficult is it today to know what you have going into the season so that it doesn't take 5 or 6 weeks to kind of figure it out?
Well, I think we're better off now than we were in years past doing that because of the non-portal. It's like our team's our team. We knew going in. We didn't know what we would have coming out. So that's helped. I think we're learning a little bit more and more about who we are and what we have and how we use it, especially defensively. And so we're in a good spot with that. There's early in the season, we didn't have a lot of opportunities. We didn't have a lot of production, but some of that was based on our schedule and who we played. And as we played teams that were drop back pass, then we got more pressure. We had more opportunities to get pressure. We also created more third and longs. So sometimes we get credit as coaches for something that didn't happen. It was more winning early downs, and you become a better coach.
Yeah.
And that helps.
Well, I've been giving you credit then, and you just don't want to take it.
You
don't want that
give
rat
Schumann
poison.
Give Schumann the credit.
No, I'm not giving him the credit.
He did a great job.
Never give Schumann the credit.
He did the great
Ever.
job.
Kirby Smart, Georgia head football coach with us here at the Regents Tradition. Can I ask you kind of like an off-the-football field personal question?
If you want to, it depends on what it is.
Doesn't mean he has to answer it. You can ask it.
Greg and I both have young boys. Both of our boys are involved in baseball. Greg kind of asked Dale Murphy a question a little bit earlier along these lines. I heard a story about you recently with some of the ways that you're managing Andrew, who is a very good baseball player. And in a non-traditional way of let's play as much as we can, every travel ball team, let's go play in every tournament. Can you, just for us personally, kind of, because you've been through it, you've lived it.
What age are your boys?
My youngest just turned 6 last week, and my oldest is 8.
Yeah.
Greg's are a little
7
bit
and
younger
4
than mine. So I would just want your advice. Personally,
Yeah, I don't know if I can say personally my advice.
So,
I'd take a baseball bat and hide it in the house somewhere and not let them have it, because I'd stick a golf club in their hand as quick as I could to get away from it, because I don't think that it's I don't know. I don't want to be known as an anti-baseball guy. I love baseball. I go to Georgia baseball games all the time. My son loves it. He enjoys baseball. But I don't see it developing you in other sports. I don't see it going, oh, I'm going to be a better athlete. When kids walk in my office, I say, what did you play as a kid? I get soccer, lacrosse, a ton of football.
Probably hoping for wrestling a lot.
Yeah, wrestling. I hope for wrestling. I hope for track and field.
Yeah.
But baseball's a rare one. It's only the quarterbacks usually. And I don't really think it develops you at other things outside of baseball, because I've been to practices, I've been to things. There's not a conditioning element. There's not a footwork element.
Yep.
There's not now. There's a mental defeat yourself, so much failure in baseball as you go up. I do think it's important for kids to have confidence and get success. And you can bring them along too fast in baseball, and you can put them in environments where a kid's at 52 feet, 50 feet, throwing 70, which is like 95, and they're not going to enjoy it. And, it just makes it hard. I also think in baseball there's a transition from these little fields where you're 12, 13, and then you go to the big fields, and all of a sudden 50% decline in baseball because I can't hit a home run. And I'm not the most successful. I'm not the best.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of things in baseball that I've gone through with Andrew, and he actually doesn't love baseball. He loves football.
Yeah.
And he loves basketball. He plays baseball because he has a good arm and he's big. And those kids that are bigger than kids early, they have more success than other kids. It's just a size advantage.
Yep.
What would you say in all your years of coaching? What would you say is the best sport to play as it translates to football success, or just well-rounded athleticism?
I would argue soccer and basketball. We don't get a ton of soccer kids, but these foreign kids we've recruited, a lot of them have grown up.
Yeah.
Their feet are unbelievable. Their quickness, and they can move and do things. A lot of NFL players put their kids in that.
The quarterback at Oregon grew up playing soccer.
It's
a lot of guys.
And then basketball, obviously, because a lot of kids we inherit thought they were going to be big enough to be LeBron James, and they got stuck at 6'4", and they realized they couldn't shoot, and they're great football players.
Yeah.
And so those two, to me, and they're a little less contact oriented.
Mm-hmm.
I'll throw you one more random one before you're gone, because there's a lot of high-profile guys I know people want to ask about on your football team. What does Gabe Harris mean to your football team?
Man, physical toughness. That was probably one of the most painful conversations I had to have after the SEC championship, where he was peaking. Greg talked about us playing better. He played better down the stretch when he got confidence, and he played in that game with a very serious foot injury in the Alabama game. And then when we had to go see him, he just thought he was going to be fine. He's like, I'll be fine, Coach. I'll get a couple weeks here and get ready to go. And then when we had to tell him he was out and had to have surgery because he couldn't play with it, he was crushed. And he's just got great toughness. He's got great pass rush ability. And shoot, he was back out there at the end of spring going through things without pads on, trying to compete against our guys.
He seems like the guy that we don't talk about anymore that every coach needs and wants. Like, you need the hard hat guy. You need the dude that's going to hold people accountable. I don't even know him personally, and I can tell he holds people accountable in practice. Like,
he just strikes people. I mean, he came in with three guys at his position, and these people pull, and we run all these counters and powers. Man, he hits the guard before he gets going. Them guards look over there and they see him. They don't want to go over and hit him.
Do you guys have a different kind of taking on puller drill? Because I feel like you hit pullers behind the center more than any other defense that I watch.
We take a lot of pride in closing. It's like we said, we give rewards. We give NIL bonuses for best closes.
That's pretty good. Look, a lot of guys out here that you're familiar with, whether it's Pete, Coach Saban, Coach DeBoer. I would imagine with the amount of competitiveness in the people I just listed, there'll be some type of game today. You're a really good player. What is the text conversation looking like behind the scenes with the action that y'all might have on the course today.
You know, with Lane not being a golfer, it makes the text conversation zero. It's just
but he's blowing you up anyway.
It's no fun for him. It's no fun for him. I mean, Pete hit me yesterday with some questions about the event because he was his first time coming, and I was helping him out. I'm like, nobody would ever help me like this. I can't imagine texting Nick and saying, hey, you know, what do I need to know, and give it. But I'm a nice guy, so I sent all that stuff to Pete. But there's no chirping about the match. He wanted to get a little going. I explained to him that your pro tells you to pick up past par, so plan on picking up 18 times. But
he might contribute 1 or 2 holes.
Yeah.
You never know. Pete claims he's a 9.
Wow.
That's the buzz.
I'm taking that. I want those odds.
Well, you're a really good, like 15.
That's
what are you right now?
Probably 12.
12.
Yeah.
Playing to a 5.
I wish.
Yeah, come on.
Wish.
How's that new course, the Rose, over there near
Awesome,
y'all?
dude. I'm so pumped. I've been
Looks
out there
good.
and played. I hadn't had much time, but it's open and playing, and it's beautiful. I can't wait to get out there more.
Yeah, I look forward to playing with you. When's Member Guest coming up? I can be there.
You can be there. If you get
need
that
me?
handicap right, I will.
We'll get it right for you, Coach. If I can get it as right as you've gotten yours, I'll get it there. We'll try.
We would be hard to beat.
Coach, we appreciate you hanging out with us.
Yeah, appreciate y'all.
Always
Good to
love
see you,
the
man.
conversation. We feel good about your team this year. Greg doesn't feel as good about your team as I do.
He's nuts.
Just want to.
I said that, and I said this. I think this is very fair. Anybody right now, because of the margins, can go 8-4. Anybody. It doesn't matter how good you are.
The schedule is such a big
It's
part.
brutal.
Who do you play at home and who do you play away? That's the only thing you need to look at in our league.
Yeah.
How many hard road games they got? Because the one we had the year before last was just
Unbelievable.
unmerciful.
It was unbelievable.
And then it's just tough.
Thanks for joining us, Coach.
Great
Hit
to
him
see you,
straight
buddy.
today.
Appreciate y'all.
Always
Absolutely.
appreciate
Play well.
it. Kirby Smart,
Thank y'all.
Georgia head football coach, joining us here live at the Regions Tradition. We'll get to a break, come back with more next on Jocks.